Even, you're licensed in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Some rules are different in one place versus another part of the country, even if the states are neighboring. These aren't really rules, though. These are just kind of good practices that I thought would be good to review with you. And there are some actually legal elements to this. So you could pull the real estate law side of the podcast into this.
You found the Real Estate Law Podcast because real estate is more than just pretty pictures, and law goes well beyond the paperwork and courtroom arguments. If you're a real estate professional or looking to build real estate expertise, then welcome to the conversation and discover more at realestatelawpodcast.com.
And welcome to the Real Estate Law Podcast. Once again, my name is Jason Muth, and I'm here with attorney broker Rory Gill from NextHome, Titletown Real Estate, and UrbanVillage Legal in Boston. Welcome, Rory. How are you?
Thanks, Jason. I'm excited for today's conversation.
Yeah, I threw this topic your way. It was in a forum that we're both members of on Facebook. We subscribe to lots of real estate groups on Facebook across the country, various partnerships and companies that you're aligned with sponsor all these amazing groups, and it brings agents and brokers and people affiliated together from all different walks of life, all different parts of the industry. And there was a really interesting comment, a really interesting post that somebody made about submitting an offer in a seller's market. And these are quote unquote words from a listing agent. I forget where the original poster was from. I think it was somewhere in Virginia or North Carolina. But I think a lot of these points are relevant to a lot of sellers markets across the country right now. It was a very spirited discussion afterward, and most people actually agreed with the majority of these. There were 10 items, actually 11, but the 11th was just kind of like inspirational, but we'll break them all down. But most people agreed with all the different comments, and there were some alternative ways to think about some of those comments as well. So I actually thought we would get your opinion of what the original poster is talking about by submitting an offer in a seller's market and all the different things that I believe she was witnessing in a situation where she had almost 40 offers on a property after one open house.
And I like a lot of these comments too, because I get very opinionated over what are really small issues to other people. So this is perfect.
Yeah. And, every state's a little bit different. Even, you're licensed in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Some rules are different in one place versus another part of the country, even if the states are neighboring. These aren't really rules, though. These are just kind of good practices that I thought would be good to review with you. And there are some actually legal elements to this. So you could pull the real estate law side of the podcast into this.
Yeah, and all the comments that I know that I'm going to make today are not necessarily state specific. So this is not taking a deep dive into the Massachusetts Code today. We are actually talking about some good practices with a legal tinge that affect every market.
Right. I should have not sent you all this in advance and just hit, record and said, hey guys, I have 10 comments. I want you to comment on all 10 of these things and see how you do. But okay, here we go. So here are a couple of the things that this listing agent mentioned when she received almost 40 offers on a property over the course of the weekend. And what she was able to do is dive down into all those offers. They all came at different price points. They came in different situations in terms of, I'd imagine, cash offers or high down payments, different levels of financing. They came from probably different agencies in her market. And some of them I'm sure were really buttoned up, and some of them probably led to, why she wrote this. So we'll start off with this one. So this, she says, as sweet as the photos of your clients are with their kids and their pets, and as heart-wrenching as the personal letters might be, please don't send them with the offer. This could invite discrimination in a lawsuit for all of us if a violation of fair housing laws is claimed per her realtor association. I've heard of people doing this. What are your comments?
I wholeheartedly agree with this post. Love letters to properties need to be phased out, and they need to be phased out quickly. They are inviting discrimination. Obviously, if you have a photo, you can infer a lot of things about people from the photo. And even a well-written letter is going to delve into some things that might add up to housing discrimination. I would actually take this a few steps further and actually suggest that the listing itself and the agent-to-agent notes should actually prohibit the love letters up front, and let all the prospective buyer agents know that you won't be accepting any love letters. And I'd go even beyond that into your listing agreement between the listing broker and the seller to actually put that in the contract saying that if I do receive a love letter, I'm not going to show it to you, and you agree to me not having show it to you. Because we have the collision of two different ethical rules coming together here. One, you can't participate in any housing discrimination, and that's what these love letters can really get you very close to. But at the same time, you have a duty to your seller to transmit all the offers in full that you've received. So you were setting up a tension here between those two obligations if a love letter is attached to it. So I would, if I were a listing agent, I would catch it from the beginning, put it in my listing agreement with the seller saying that we are not going to accept love letters and you agree to not have them be transmitted to you. I would put it in the listing notes itself saying that love letters will not be accepted for this property. And then as a buyer's agent, I would back off of relying on this. I know you're trying to make your offer stand out, but there are other ways to do it. And this is not the solution.
Is love letters the technical term for what we're referring to here?
No, but that's actually what the Greater Boston Association of Realtors is calling them in all of their communications about them. So I've adopted that language too. I think it makes sense and it's a great shorthand.
So keep the love letters written in the box underneath your bed.
Yes. They're not for houses. They're for people, not for houses.
Okay. Second point, don't forget to include the lender's loan approval letter with the offer. Be sure if it references an address, it's the one you're offering on and not the one for the house your client lost on the day before. Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure, and there are a couple other things that are inherent in that post too. So this is another one that I completely agree with. You want to make sure that you have an accurate and updated pre-approval letter that you could submit with all of your offers. I don't know why you would necessarily be putting a particular address on each one, but if you are, make sure you're submitting the right form and make sure that the date of it is recent enough that it's still plausible and doesn't appear to be expired. Also, make sure that the lender took some time to make the letter look neat. I know this is trite, but I've seen pre-approval letters where the name is not capitalized, the spaces there are just odd spaces in the heading. That looks as though the lender didn't really review anything. They just typed your name quickly into an app and spit out a pre-approval letter without any thought. These are really important documents. This is a competitive market. And everything matters. The pre-approval is key. So at least make sure it's in good order and everything looks right.
I don't know if I'm making this up, or maybe we talked about it in a previous episode, or just you and I talked about it offline, but like, did you get like a forged pre-approval letter once or something that was very falsified? Or maybe I'm making that up.
I don't remember ever receiving a forged or a fake pre-approval letter. But they're also, when you start to work with different lenders, you start to understand which lenders are stronger and which ones are weaker than others. And you also want to make sure that the pre-approval actually means something, that this is not just based on the information that they submitted on this web form. We think they might maybe someday be able to qualify for a loan in this amount. So the lender's trustworthiness and the completeness matters.
All right, on to number 3. Please call or text to let the listing agent know you're submitting an offer and be sure it was received. I don't want to find it in my spam folder a week later, and I know you don't either. That seems pretty obvious, but what percentage of agents do you think are not, notifying a listing agent that a offer is coming over? Probably not insignificant, right?
It is insignificant. And there are different varieties of this. Calling and texting in addition to sending the email over is good. You can even say, just please confirm receipt to my email. And if I don't hear a confirmation in 20 minutes or so, then you better be sure that I'm calling and texting. Just think of the number of emails that you get on any given day. If you have language in your email that says $200,000 or $500,000, here's an offer, and attachment from a sender they don't recognize, that's very likely going to end up in their spam folder. So, if you don't hear anything back, assume it wasn't received, and keep calling, keep texting until you know that the listing agent has it and that they're going to present it.
So as a listing agent, even in a situation where 40 offers might be coming in, it's probably customary to receive those calls or texts from people that are submitting offers. And it's also probably customary for that listing agent to acknowledge them, right? Like, have you been in situations where you're submitting offers and you never get an acknowledgement back that, oh yeah, I got this? Like, they should just write back quick text, thanks so much, or something, right?
They should, and they do. That's actually an ethical obligation. You as a buyer's agent have the right to confirmation that your offer has been received and that it's been presented to the seller, both of those. And if you don't get that from the listing agent, that's a violation of the ethics and a violation of your rights as the buyer's agent. And the listing agent should be appreciative, even if they are receiving 40 offers. You took the time, you and your client sat down and put together an offer. That's what they have been wanting the whole time. They put up the listing. They want this from you. So, if they can't take the time to thank you for your offer and acknowledge receipt of it, that's bad practice and part of the listing agent.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one thing with, getting 40 offers. I mean, like right now, the sellers kind of hold the cards. It's not always the case, but right now they do. But even with that, everyone's got to be professional. You got to get back to people. You're offering up a property. You have an obligation to the people you're selling the property for, even though everybody wants it and everyone's willing to outbid each other on the property. Like, you don't have to be mean about it, right? You have to get back to people in a professional manner because, you also want to maintain a good reputation. Don't have an arrogant persona to be like, hey, listen, like, do you want it or not? Like, I'll get back to you if I get back to you. I mean, that's probably not going to go far in this business.
No, you'll be doing business with the same agents over and over again throughout your career. It's not that difficult to be polite and appreciative, and you never know what's going to happen. So just thank the buyer's agent for submitting the offer and get back to them.
Okay, number 4, and there was actually some debate over this next one, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Don't ask me to tell you what the other offers are. I can't do that. That was the statement right there.
So I disagree with this one in large point because it's a common misperception that there's a big ethical rule saying that you cannot disclose what, if you've received other offers or what they are. That is not the case. And in fact, the decision there is largely bound up in the listing agreement that the listing agent has with the seller. That question is addressed at the beginning of the seller-broker relationship and how you want to treat offers that come in. So you might be in a situation where the seller instructs you to disclose the fact that you've received other offers and not their terms, or the seller could authorize you to reveal the terms. So it's not always true that you can't disclose the terms. If you are in a multiple offer situation, you probably don't want to keep to run it as an auction where you're telling everybody the numerical value of every single offer that comes in, but you can disclose some of the terms and some of the things that you're working with. But if you're going to do that, you want to make sure that you're giving the same message to the whole applicant pool and you're not favoring one particular buyer over others. So that may be a very good reason why the listing agent doesn't want to reveal that information. But yes, I maybe agree with some of the sentiment and some of the directives of this point, but I don't agree with this point in a literal sense.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking about submitting an offer in a seller's market, and we're running through a situation where a listing agent had almost 40 offers and had some thoughts about what to do and not to do after having received this many offers. And we're getting Rory Gill, attorney broker, NextHome Titletown, and UrbanVillage Legal. We're getting your opinion on all of these. So number 5, please be sure all blanks are filled in and fixtures, utilities information is the same as provided with the listing. Inaccurate information shows you don't pay attention to details or just don't care. That's kind of a little gruff, isn't it?
It is a little gruff, and I agree with this point in the sense that you want to have good form in the offer that you're submitting. Take the time, be a professional, fill out all of the legal references correctly, especially if they've been provided to you in the listing. It does show that you're professional. It does show that you know what you're doing. It does show that you've read the listing and understand everything that's going on. A lot of these things are going to get worked out in the purchase and sale, and making a mistake at this point isn't fatal. But I suppose in the situation where you are dealing with multiple offers, you want to read the instructions carefully. You want to have the information filled out carefully because there is at least the small possibility that that's what's going to set your offer apart against another competing offer.
Mm-hmm. So this next one actually has a couple things together, and I want to break this up into two little parts. And I feel as though it's a bit of a loophole in someone that submitted an offer in this manner. She says, be honest, please don't include that you're waiving appraisal and intend to pay out of pocket if appraisal comes in less. If the source of funds is coming from the sale of your client's house that you didn't include as a contingency and hasn't even been listed yet. So let me just break that up really quickly. So the first part of it, if there is an appraisal contingency and the appraisal comes in below the agreed upon amount, what's the basic on what can be done there? Let's say that you agreed upon 450, the appraisal comes in 425. As a buyer, can you bring 25K cash extra?
Yes. So, what you can and what you have to do will actually come down to this moment and what exactly the offer to purchase says. But yes, as a buyer, you always have the option of bringing extra cash to the table in the case of a low appraisal. And that will solve the situation and allow the closing to happen for sure.
Okay. Now, this person is saying if the appraisal comes in low, they're waiving appraisal contingency. So let's just say that situation actually came true. So they offered 450, it's agreed upon. The appraisal comes in at 425. There will be an appraisal because there's a bank involved, and the bank is hiring the appraiser, right, to protect their interest.
That's correct.
And you said in the offer, no problem, we'll cover it. No appraisal contingency, but we're going to cover the difference in case it comes in low. But by the way, I'm not going to tell you this part, but this is the truth, that it's going to come out of the funds of my place that I got to sell to buy this place. Like, I could tell the listing agent wasn't really thrilled in a situation like that came up. What are your thoughts on all this?
So so there was actually a lot that can be strategized here. If the listing agent is offended that the buyer side didn't explore this and put it into detail, I disagree with that sentiment. Here's an actually opportunity for a buyer that has a well-drafted offer to communicate the value to the seller. So if they're in a situation where they are using financing and the appraisal matters, but they're willing to cover the difference in the case of a low appraisal, then communicate that clearly and not in vague terms. So just saying that in case of a low appraisal, we'll cover it. Well, I would actually take it one step farther and actually explain what that means. So in the case of the appraisal, $50,000 less than the purchase price, then we are prepared to bring that $50,000 to the table. And here's a proof of funds that shows that. So that's a buyer's prerogative to demonstrate their value and to communicate it to the listing agent to show how strong they are as a buyer. If you don't do that, you're not necessarily doing anything wrong or offensive to the seller side. But that's a way to clearly communicate your value proposition to the list agent.
Mm-hmm. Now, that's actually goes right into the next point that's on this list, which is number 7. If your buyer is offering to pay out of pocket on a low appraisal, do provide they have the means to do it by providing sufficient proof of funds at the time you submit the offer. So in a situation like that, would that just be a bank statement showing that there's whatever 25K sitting in a checking account?
So there is actually a new, there's kind of before in the past, we've either done proof of funds or pre-approval letters to show where the money is going to come from for the purchase. But I'm actually coaching my agents now in this market to actually provide both. So a pre-approval letter for the portion of the purchase price that's going to be financed, but also provide a proof of funds for the down payment. Unless you're putting down a 3.5% down payment, that you're going to have a pretty substantial down payment. So demonstrate that you have that too. And in the event that that down payment's coming from a home that you're selling, show how far along you are in the process of selling that home. Having a home sale contingency is not fatal to an offer. It weakens your offer for sure. But if you can demonstrate that, you are willing to sell this house, you're willing to sell this house for less than the market, and that you've actually taken some steps to get it sold, are going to go a long way.
Okay, great. Number 8 is a very logistical matter, I suppose. Please scan the offer as one PDF. A dot loop or other link takes more time to go through for everyone.
So that may seem trite, but that actually is a really important thing to think about. You want to make it as easy as possible for the seller to accept your offer mechanically. And that means not relying on whatever internal system that your office happens to have to transmit it over. If you have DocuSign transaction rooms, Dotloop, or any other e-signature software, don't assume that the other side is employing that same software or that they're willing to create a login or to put together the document for you. The best way for you to do it is to take the extra few minutes, compile everything down to one PDF that can be submitted and easily read to the other side. When I'm in court, I try to make it easy for the judge to rule my way by drafting a decision for the judge in advance. That way, in order to rule in my favor, all they have to do is maybe make a couple edits and sign something. That's not going to win the case for you if you have a losing case, but taking that step makes it mechanically easier for you to get your way. So make it mechanically easier to get your way by giving the listing agent what they need to accept your offer.
Right. But, the presumed close is never a bad idea.
Absolutely.
Okay. So these final three, I'll kind of go into how to hold yourself as a listing agent that's sitting on top of almost 40 offers, which by the way, that's part of the service, right? I know that there's a lot of folks out there that are wondering if they should do for sale by owner or if they should be using an agent, and they might not want to be paying 4 to 6% commission depending on the market on the sale of the house. But I mean, this is a lot of work to run through all this.
It's a lot of work to go for. And remember, you're not just lining up offers from highest price to lowest price. You have different competing terms, timelines, strengths of buyers, and everything needs to be weighed. And a professional can help you sort through it in a way that also doesn't open you up to any claims of housing discrimination or bias.
Mm-hmm. So the final 3 points, number one is be nice. One house has too many offers. One house and too many offers is tough on us listing agents too. It sounds a little, boohoo for me, but no, it's legit. You want to do business with people who are nice to you, right? And
it is a little boohoo for me, but if you're working for the buyer and you want your buyer's offer accepted, in addition to making it easier for the seller to accept your offer, make it so that the listing agent wants to work with you for that 45 days between the offer getting accepted and closing. Again, it's probably not going to turn a loser of an offer into the winner, but if it's up there and it's the only difference and the listing agent would rather work with you for the 45 days, then just be nice and make it so that they want to work with you.
So where's the ethical boundary when you are the listing agent and you're reviewing all these offers with your client? Now you're presenting them all because you've made it clear many times to me that all offers need to be shown to the client. And let's say there's two that are, the number is identical. They're both 450 in that same example I was talking about. But that you like agent A more than agent B because they're more buttoned up. They get back to you quickly. It's a smoother process. Forget about personal, oh yeah, this guy's my boy from back in the day. And this one, I don't know who they are, but for whatever reason, do agents ever steer toward a preferred agent if the numbers are about the same?
Steering is the wrong concept to have here. In the event that you have two competing offers and you're going onto some kind of intangible characteristics like that, I would point out the pros and the cons of different offers. And one of the pros can certainly be that, I've had good experience with this other agent in the past. They are responsive. They are honest. You can never know exactly how that buyer client is going to turn out. But I know when I work with that buyer agent, at the very least, they're responsive, and you can go from there. And things may come down to small things like that. Okay.
Number 10 is be patient. So while you wait for the seller's decision, please don't text and call every half hour. We have a lot of offers to review, and one of them is for your client and deserves time and attention.
That's true. There's nothing controversial there. You don't win somebody over by bothering them every 20 minutes. That's not going to help anything. But I have had submitted offers for buyers where the listing agent then doesn't get back to you afterward, after they've made a decision, accept an offer, And then you have to bother them a day later and they said, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to get back to you. We accepted another offer. That's painful too. And that's bad form on the other side. But yes, if your offer's been acknowledged, you are probably not helping yourself out by asking for constant updates. If you are suspicious that the offer is not going to be presented to the seller, you actually do have some rights in there, and I don't want to get into the details, but you can ask for proof that the offer was submitted to the seller.
Now, once they've decided which offer to accept, if indeed they want to accept any of the offers, it is customary for the listing agent to get back to everybody else, right, and say, I'm sorry, your offer was not accepted. Thank you. Have a nice day, right? Or what's usually in that communication.
Common decency would dictate just that. Thank you for your interest. We had, just like getting turned down for a hot job opportunity. Yeah. The language is going to be about the same, but they should be prompt, and they should get back to you.
And then sometimes the agent who submitted an offer might ask a question like, was there anything specific in the offer that, that pushed you in a different direction or what have you? I mean, I guess there's a fair amount of back and forth that's either accepted or customary, but eventually you're just going to have to move on. But you can get some feedback, right?
I always ask for feedback. It's usually never volunteered. I always ask for feedback. And it's usually something along the lines of, I understand you had a successful open house. I'm just curious, were we beat on price or on terms? Something that opens up the door where they can answer you back and volunteer some more information about where you lost on the offer.
And how often do you actually get feedback?
Usually they'll open up and explain something. They'll say, that's when you be told about the all cash offer or some other aspect. And that helps, that gives, as a buyer's agent, you really want to know that because of course your buyer client wants to know what happened to the offer.
Right. And before I get to this final point, like what about a situation where, I think people are used to submitting, your offer by 5 p.m. on Monday or whatever the terms are. How often at 5 p.m. Monday comes, they get 38 offers in this situation? What if they want to, have a bit of a bidding war right there? Like they maybe already have it because they had that many offers come in. Mm-hmm. But could they go back to like everybody that submitted an offer saying last and final tomorrow, and they go back to all 38 people that submitted it, or do they go back to the top 5, or what might happen there?
All those outcomes are fairly common. If they ask for a best and final round where they turn around to the offers that were submitted, they've rejected all of the original offers and they're asking everybody to resubmit a new one. I've seen this it's about a coin flip right now, whether or not they'll accept one of the original offers or whether they'll do a best and final round. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And usually a best and final round is to flush out the top offers. You might be, if you're one of the lower offers, they may invite you to as well, but they're really looking for the top offers to differentiate themselves from each other.
Yeah. It almost feels like game theory. It's a whole separate episode, I think, if we should talk about, how to bid on the property, in what situations with multiple offers, how to, do best and final. Like, well, let's put a pin on that one and we'll get back to that. All right.
All right.
Last but certainly not least on this listing agents list is, above all else, please be kind yourself and stay positive. You're doing an amazing job in providing your value to your client every day and in so many ways. And I think that's an important way to kind of, start to end up this conversation because, everyone's looking for a deal. They're looking, it's very competitive out there these days. People want edges, but you need a legal edge. And sometimes you can really down yourself if you're not getting offers submitted. If you're the clients that are submitting 7, 8, 9 different offers, not finding that place to live. If you're the agent that's just going to open house after open house and nothing's getting accepted, you could get really down on the entire situation. So sometimes just a little boost of confidence, being like, hey, listen, you didn't get this one, but like you're doing a good job. Hang in there, you're going to get one of them. Like that's certainly welcome these days.
That is a great sentiment. And that comment right there makes for the perfect rejection email from the listing agent. If you're looking for what language to put in there, that's it. And it's we are in a particularly tough seller's market right now with low inventory. Hopefully by the time this podcast is produced and released, we've come down a little bit, though my hopes aren't quite there. And buyer agents just need to know that they've done what they could, and it just didn't get the offer. And your buyers also need to hear that too, that, they did everything right. Your buyers did everything that they could. And it's just the situation that prevented them from getting the house. It's not any mistake that they made or any problem with them.
Right. Yeah, it's tough, but hang in there, everybody. If you're listening to this and you are a real estate agent who is just submitting offer after offer, hopefully some of these tips are ways that you can take into your next offer and maybe win that one. If you are a listing agent, we'd love to hear your feedback and comments. If you agree with some of these points, if you have other ways that you would present it yourself, shoot us an email or message us. We're going to post this on YouTube, obviously, so you could use the comments below. And Rory, where else can people find you? Go over all your websites and details, and we'll put a pin in the whole episode.
The easiest place to find me is at NextHomeTitletown.com. You can contact me many ways through there. If your question is particularly legal, I'm also at UrbanVillageLegal.com. I'm happy to reach out to you however you get in touch with me.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for your time today, Rory. Thank you for listening. We really do appreciate it. And if you want to give us a like or a positive feedback on whatever podcast platform you heard this on, it certainly would help us out and get this in front of some more folks who might benefit from the information. So we'll look forward to our next episode. And that's it. Thanks, Rory.
Thanks, Jason. See you next time.
See ya.
This has been the Real Estate Law Podcast. Because real estate is more than just pretty pictures, and law goes well beyond the paperwork and courtroom arguments. We're powered by NextHome Titletown, Greater Boston's progressive real estate brokerage. More at nexthometitletown.com. And UrbanVillage Legal, Massachusetts Real Estate Counsel, serving savvy property owners, lenders, and investors. More at UrbanVillageLegal.com. Today's conversation was not legal advice, but we hope you found it entertaining and informative. Discover more at realestatelawpodcast.com. Thank you for listening.